Hi. So I'm going to call this one Build a Production Company. See, I did one earlier called Build an IT Company, and one of the responses I got was, they'll never let you do that. And while I understand where that kind of thinking comes from, it is possible that that kind of thinking is based in a false assumption. That false assumption is that one of the ways this world works is that I should seek novel ideas in hopes that some big almighty entity comes along, recognizes it, pays me for it, and takes it over. My job is done. I did my best for humanity. Now I shall go buy a Mercedes-Benz and relax on a beach. Job done. Well done. Let's all go to heaven and party. I think that that is reflective of the world that we've built. If I want to counteract that, what I need to build is a world that creates an environment where the growth of consciousness is not forced or directed. It is comfortable and individually inspired. Like, instead of get a job and work at this because this is where the money is to feed your family. No, instead of that, think your thoughts. Allow your organic process of consciousness to grow as opposed to being forced. Well, how do you build that world? How is that in any way not idealistic? I'm a very idealistic person. I think ideas are the more valuable thing about this life than the material things that we buy, that we exchange. This is a materialistic world. I am an idealistic person. I value the ideas more than I value the materialism that ideas are used for. The world we live in now is already kind of structuring itself in a way that allows consciousness to be fostered to grow as opposed to being driven. The basics are there for many more people than there has ever been at any time in our history before. While it is true that there is far more tail chasing than ever in our history before, which is a discussion on focus, really, for another time. But if it's also true that one is growing, the laws of entropic and creative energy exchange tell me that if distraction is growing, then so is growth. Neither one will ever overpower the other. So a production company, at this stage in our history, it is more crucial that we inspire the visions of others than it is to actually fulfill the visions of an individual here and now. Meaning, if I see the infrastructure of the future, it is more productive for me to find a way to show it and explain it and allow that to grow in other consciousness. Gotta be a better way to say that. Allow that to grow and tend it in others. My having an idea and a vision is not sustainable for the long term. I am not sustainable for the long term. Anybody that I meet individually is not sustainable for the long term. Fostering its growth and creating an environment for it to grow in is the sustainable way to go. That is the model I need to envision in order to create it. So what is the function of a production company then? The production company that I see. When I am doing the work, meditating and allowing my mind to wander, find interesting things, focus in and flow on those things, a lot of subjects that come up are things that would be highly profitable. things that would make my monetary existence in this world far more comfortable. And if you watched my previous video on consciousness and choice, you'll know that I've made a decision to avoid those things, because I don't think this work should be done with those things as a priority. So what do I have that I can take advantage of in this world, that I can see a model of and use that to build the world I see? And one of the things I see is the enormous amount of human resources going towards things like streaming. If you want to build a production company today, there are a lot of places for that to gain traction. There are a lot of different individual organizations around the world that are looking for things to put on their services. If you wanted to start a production company that only offered its products to another service, like say Netflix, Hulu, Disney, and then build it to be your own individual at some point, or if you start with massive resources and start it as your own individual right from the beginning with a clearly stated goal of growing human consciousness. Because I believe that that is, all right, look, if consciousness is an organic process, then you believe one of two things in this world, that it was either created or it evolved. If it was created, then that is the product, the work product of its creator. If it is evolved, then it is our work product. Either way, it is something we should be fostering and focusing on allowing to grow as opposed to restricting it. I'm getting off on a tangent again here. See, I have two competing ideas today, and they keep interfering with each other. Look, Dave Chappelle did a special where he was like at a party or something, someplace I hope I'm never at, where some producers asked him if he had any ideas for a movie, and he made, of course, as Dave Chappelle did, he made a very effective joke out of the entire circumstance. But for me, I thought, well, after I laughed at his joke, for me, I thought, what happens in that weird, because this is a fucking strange world, what would happen if I found myself in similar circumstances where somebody who actually had influence and resources were to ask me if I had any ideas? What good would it be for someone who thinks about these things not to have to be in that situation and go, I don't know. So when I'm doing my mind wandering and meditation, I come across these ideas and sort of catalog and save them for this entirely highly hypothetical situation that may come about. And in doing so, I found that even somebody as little as me, as I'm not somebody who should come up with these things, but even someone as little as me, as out of that wheelhouse as you could possibly get, can come up with seemingly infinite numbers of ideas that could be directed towards my ideals, that could be directed towards the influence I would like to see in this world. So I answer these questions for myself in my meditation. It's very productive. But I wonder if that couldn't be the basis of something that actually does change the world. Because the way we are living our lives now, a lot of us are streaming really good stories. The way humans tell our stories and share our information is changing so rapidly, and the amount of time we dedicate to absorbing it is changing. How can that be used to foster and further a vision? So I think about this production company. Production runs in multiple levels, from people just like me talking to you through this very simple setup, to people who are way better at this, talking through much more elaborate setups with green screens and representations of thoughts that are on their mind at the time. Some people are so good at it. People like John Oliver, who are just amazing. I should not shoot to be somebody like John Oliver because we already have somebody that's perfect at it. I should strive to be what it is that's unique about me when I'm doing this. And that's what I try to do. But from this level to that level to indie level to major production studio levels, if you were to start a production company that worked around a fictional life based in the world that you want to create, I envision a world where where humanity's purpose is the growth of consciousness, the creation of green energy, the growth of food, the building of our infrastructure, housing, and where we do the services that we require to survive and thrive. Because there's a difference. And this was pointed out to me via Star Trek, that there's a very big difference between surviving, and thriving. We are surviving. If we survive good enough, we may experience, maybe briefly, maybe for a long period of time, what it feels like to thrive. What we have at our disposal is the means to understand that and grow that so that it's not just a little bit of thriving mixed into all the surviving. It's more and more thriving and less surviving. So base it in that fictional world where Johnny comes home or Jane comes home from her day of work, but her work or their work is growing this future of humanity. I see things in my meditations like megalithic structures based solely on repairing the environment and generating clean energy. You know, you could take a river, run it through a mountain, a hill, a long series of hills. You could think of aqueduct structures, whatever. You could build those structures in such a way that they generate wind energy, hydro energy, geothermal energy, and distributed them out, all while growing the species you need to clean the water, all while, look, the things I see are hard to describe. But if I can envision them, just this little old me from nowhere can see these things, then many other people are seeing these things too. And the outlet needs to be showing examples of people who are actually living it and doing it so that it inspires in others the actual activity of living it and doing it, showing them a vision of how they could live versus just another version of how we already are living. Understand that to build that world, there are enormous changes in education, in employment, in professions, in the structures of laws that need to occur, that I can't come up with all of them. I need to inspire them in others. So if you have a vision like this, a production company is a good way to go. There's plenty of demand for content. There's plenty of people creating circumstances where they allow their consciousness to grow by consuming that. And if one day the fiction becomes the reality, because we have many examples of that on this planet right now, then what things do you want to take from fiction to reality? What is the direction you want to send your cultures into? This is where your culture is starting. There is a place you would like to get it to. How are you going to direct it to do so? How will I direct the society I live in, where energy is generated by big, powerful companies. I have to pay for it. How do I change it from I'm generating it and the people I know are working in that field, my neighbors are working in that field and maintaining it and building, expanding it, perfecting it, as opposed to that rich corporation with a legal board that is deciding whether or not to take the latest batch of money they got and just give it to their shareholders. How do I change that? And how do I make that change a part of our society the way it is, the opposite is a part of our society now? I have to show that vision, and a development company seems like the right way to do it. Now, see, think of the productions that could be made from blogging on up. If I show megalithic structures that are meant to rejuvenate the environment that we are destroying while generating the energy that we need to survive, that's not just graphic images. That's input I cannot come up with that needs to be inspired. When the person responded to my Make an IT company, I think the response I would like to give to that is this is how you need to build it in order to change that from being an actual factor to just being a non-factor. When I think about how I would build that society, look at how we build now. We build cities where cities make sense to build, except for Las Vegas. It doesn't make any sense to build a city there. And there are other examples of that. But anyways, what if we were to change it so that the generation of our food, the production of our food, the generation of our energy is everywhere in our society, but it leads to and culminates in these statements of human power that are what I would like to think of as castles, as opposed to cities. You go through the society, and where the society functions, where we have our sporting events, where we have our debate, our leadership, our politics, our structure, our ideas and generations, our IT companies and production companies are housed in castles. Castles that can look just like the highly dense populated sections of our cities, but we can design them to inspire rather than strangle the environment in which we place them. If that is somebody's job, or a lot of people's jobs, what do those blogs look like? What do the memes of that society look like? If the memes of this society are building algorithms that drive us crazy, those are our algorithms. Those are the profitable algorithms, meaning those are the things we want to consume. If we want to change that algorithm, we have to change the things that we want to consume. And to do that, we have to have examples of what those things are. Castles can house your IT companies, your production companies, and any other companies I come up with ideas to do videos on. Hell, this castle may be the place where this production company is housed, and it's 500,000 people that live there, but that is the central purpose of it. The profit-making purpose of it. See, I can't build this because I have to limit what I do based on whether or not I'm being influenced by things like the need for money. But to build it, you need people who are driven by things like needing to make money. Because you're building it with skills that were honed in a system that we already know is not working, that is unsustainable. But you have to take the skills that are built in that system to build the system that is sustainable. I guess I'd like to think that it would be like a CEO type who already has enough money, but really likes the thrill of this challenge. And that's what they want to dedicate their lives to now that they've already got that other thing covered. I don't know, do people get enough money? How can you not? But apparently, I live in a world where clearly people do not get enough. So, whether or not they'll let me do it, whether or not they'll let you do it, I want to make that irrelevant. If we made enough of those things irrelevant, the power dynamic of our civilization will begin to shift. That is the root. That is my focal point. That is where I'm aiming to target. I guess that's what you get when you get a dreamer / philosopher with a lot of time.